you're going to have teenagers at the same time you have a perimenopausal wife.
Oh.
I'm like, start therapy now.
Yeah. Book in a retreat.
A 7-year retreat. The connection with other humans exists without the alcohol. People are like, how do you know that you were ready to be a mum? I'm like, I have a 4 and a 5-year-old and I'm still not ready to be a mum. Is she type A and she type B?
Should we record this?
Yeah, let's just click record. Oh, we are? Okay.
Oh, we are.
Type A is like organized, strives off of structure, needs structure. And type B is kind of like, oh yeah.
We're both very, like, you're very structured too.
We're both very similar,
Mm.
but the execution
Mm.
and the patience with it is different. Like we both really, like we love the structure and that organization.
Yeah.
But B is like, all right, now let's do it.
I feel like before I had kids, I was very type A.
Yeah.
Very, very. Whereas now I'm a bit more. I can
Things
let
aren't-
structure go a little bit
Yeah,
more.
things aren't that deep.
Things aren't that deep.
Mm.
Yeah. What happened?
Justin,
We all went full.
the background light just went off behind Sheridan. For
Yeah,
those
and
that-
you guys too.
Oh,
It's there now. Though.
Oh,
It's there now.
it's
though.
a full system shut
Yeah.
down.
Did
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Felt like a blackout at school. You know, when they're like, everyone gather around, take a seat, hold
I
on to a
forgot
buddy.
that. Oh my God. Why did they have the blackouts?
I
Was
don't
that
know.
planned?
Maybe storms, natural disasters. I don't know. Just to like build our character or something in primary school.
Resilience.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a resilience test.
Let's try and shock them.
Are you
Blackout.
scared of the dark?
Murder in the dark.
Let's see who the weak ones are. This is Live and Let Be.
With Liv and B. Hello, my loves. Welcome back to Live and Let Be. Today we have a very special guest with us, and we're so excited for this chat and this episode. She is a women's health coach, a nurse, and a mom.
Mhm.
Sheridan, welcome.
Hi. Thanks for having me. I never really know how to introduce myself.
Yeah.
I don't
So
think anyone.
It's such a weird
Hi,
thing.
I'm Sheridan. I think you said all the things that I am, I guess.
Mm.
But where I guess I started, I was in the fitness industry a long time ago. So I'm almost 35. And I started face-to-face PTing when I was around 20, but I was studying nursing at the time. So coaching was always my part-time gig, I guess, whilst I was studying nursing, because I was always really interested in medicine. And I became a registered nurse and I was working in the intensive care unit, so critical care. And you get to see a lot of different patients and you start to observe patterns or regular things that you're sort of dealing with. And while we saw a lot of things, one thing that really stood out to me was how many women we saw with very specific conditions. So for me, there was a few, one patients, but types of presentations that really, I wouldn't say affected me, but really scared me in essence. So one thing I noticed is that we would see a lot of women who were, above 50 with hip fractures. And it just seemed very regular. Oh yeah, she has a hip fracture. But when women have hip fractures, you notice that there's way more women than there are men. And so you start to think like, why aren't men presenting with this thing? And it seems very trivial. Oh, you have a hip fracture. But if you have a hip fracture, there is a very high chance that you will die within the first 12 months after that injury. So it's not specifically from the fracture itself, but it's the lack of mobility, the ability to move around. You're basically dependent on someone to shower you, to move you around, to get you to the toilet. And while it was devastating to see, people who had lost their independence, it was also their families that really impacted me. Say their mothers were 50, 60, 70, in their 80s, their daughters or their sons were often around an age group where they're taking care of a family.
Yeah.
They've got mortgages, they've got responsibilities, but then they've also just had this responsibility of caregiving for their mum or choosing to put her into a retirement home and seeing the process of people having to make that decision. Yeah, that really scared me. I was like, I don't want to, one, ever be a burden on my children if I ever have them. At the time I didn't have kids. But also the idea of ever having to be dependent on someone for my basic needs like toileting. And so I kind of got obsessed with how do I make sure this doesn't happen to me? But also, you know, within healthcare, you're always trying to think of how do we prevent things because healthcare can be very much a treatment center and not so much a prevention center because it has to be the priority. People are coming to you already with injuries. And the more I kind of delved into that, the more I found how impactful resistance training is for so many things. And that led me to be like, I'm not ever going to, change this on this side of the fence, so to speak. And while it sounds very cliche, it's kind of built my mission, which is get a barbell in the hands of every woman in every life stage. I don't care if it's pregnancy, postpartum, perimenopause, menopause, get women resistance training because that is the most powerful stimulator or stimulus that we can use to prevent sarcopenia, osteoporosis, which are the things that lead women into the hospital with hip fractures in the first place. So that's how I got back into coaching.
Yeah, boom. Wow. That's the start of our ep, guys.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's it. Bye.
No, but when you were speaking, I was just thinking about my mum because I've been having this conversation with her because that's exactly what happened with my grandma. She had a fall and then mum was then looking after her. But yeah, I had that chat with mum because I'm like, you just need to be doing weights. Weight training, core, like getting yourself so strong because you're getting older now and that's what happens. You know, you start to have falls and because you're just not working those types of muscles. So
yeah, and it's also the bone as well though. I guess the biggest thing for me is that when we look at building muscle, you can build muscle, you know, it's never too late to start building muscle. Yeah. However, when we look at bone density, which is the thing that essentially will either increase our risk of having a fracture or support us to reduce that risk, women build the majority of their bone mass before they're 30. So we reach our peak bone mineral density at the age of 30. And then beyond that time, it's about preserving it as much as we can. So both men and women will have a decrease in their bone mass across their lifespan, but men start with more because they generally, I know, how rude. Men generally have more muscle mass, and muscle is the thing that really helps that build. I know, like rude.
Yeah, come on.
Don't have babies. Give us something. Don't go through menopause.
Yeah, and the other thing is menopause. Men don't experience menopause, so we do see we do see a drop off in bone mineral density during menopause. So women start with less, and then they lose quite a significant amount around menopause, which puts them closer to that threshold of having osteoporosis, which increases the risk of fractures. So if you think about, you know, I guess when your mum was growing up, it was very much thinness, be as small as possible, weight loss, the very heroin chic, resistance training, don't get bulky, stay away from that, lots of cardio. And if we don't start to change the message to help young girls build muscle and build their bone through resistance training. Yeah, it's a cycle. And so we really have to maximize that bone mass before women turn 30 and then help them beyond that period of time to know how to maintain it. And resistance training is the thing.
So interesting. Do you think that decrease in bone density is why older people shrink?
I think there's a lot of different reasons for that.
You know how people go, oh, you know, you just get shorter when you get older.
Oh, shrink. I thought you said drink.
No,
I was like,
you're like, that could be a lot of different reasons.
Well, yes, no, it is.
Yeah. There you go.
Yes.
Yeah, because you just find you're like, you know,
now
you're knocking off
again?
a couple centimeters.
Yes, that's why.
Crazy.
Very interesting. I do feel like there's some sort of conversation that's sort of enabling for women when they hit, you know, as early as their 50s, where they kind of go, oh, I don't really need to do that anymore. Oh, I don't really need to train as much anymore. Life's not as like full on, so that's not really required of me. And there's this weird sort of language around it.
There's a saying, and it's don't step over $100 bills to get to pennies, meaning, you know, you can take a supplement, for example, that will claim to help you build muscle or to help you build bone. but the $100 bill is resistance training. That is the greatest stimulus that we can use. So don't step over the resistance training to get to the pennies, being that of a supplement, for example. But I think it's complicated in the sense that I think especially, and I can't speak for men because I'm not a male myself, but there is a lot of shame around the loss of function for both men and women. And when your body can't do what it used to do, it feels like the only option is to give up.
Yeah.
And so we start to think about aging as this inevitable thing where you slow down and you become sedentary, but it doesn't actually have to be like that, because if we remain active through our whole life, that's actually not our pathway. We can, go into our 80s and our 90s still having all of our mobility. I sometimes would see patients where there's a 70-year-old male in the intensive care bed and there's his friend who's 90 walking into the hospital to come and visit him. And it's the difference between being sedentary and not being sedentary. And that's just the greatest thing that we can use. So that's why I'm a big, big advocate for resistance training.
What made you predominantly want to work with women? What was that motivation?
Well, I'm a mum of 2 girls.
Yeah.
So there is an intrinsic motivator to just make the world a better place for women in lots of different capacities, because one day I will not be here and they will have lives, and I want a lot of things to be better for them and opportunities to be better for them. But I think they really inspired me to work specifically with women. But there's also an element of there are things that we don't know about women's health that haven't been extensively studied. So I think at the moment there's a really big push on social media, and you might have heard, I guess I call it a bit of a slogan. It's women are underrepresented in sports science, medical and sports science research, which is true, but it's not the entire truth. And what I mean by that is, obviously, people on social media are selling things because they're business people, they're entrepreneurs, and that's amazing. You have to sell something in order to make a profit to build a successful business. But we're confusing a lot of the messaging around that. So women specifically were not always included in medical and sports science research. It wasn't a requirement for women to be included until the 90s. So researchers could choose whether or not they included women in their research, which is crazy. If you think about it, it's been 35 years-ish since women were required to be a part of medical research. But there's complexities to that. There was, I can't remember what year it was. It might have been the 50s or the 60s, but don't quote me on it. There was a certain medication that was given to women that they found caused birth defects. So it was given for nausea and vomiting in pregnancy and for some other indications as well. And because it had such a devastating effect on women of childbearing age, there was obviously caution taken in, we have to really make sure that women are not pregnant, and how do you really know? And research is complicated to complete. It's not as simple as people make it out to be. So women have considerations that men don't when we're testing things. And there was always the question, does the menstrual cycle impact outcomes that we see in how drugs are utilized, in how we build muscle, in how we build our cardiovascular fitness? And we've come a really long way to answer some of those questions. And I think we've come a long way to answer not a lot of questions about women's training and things like that, but we know a lot more now. There is less known about things like PCOS and endometriosis and how we can treat and essentially screen for those types of things. So to answer the question in a TED Talk kind of way, it was because of that lack of research in women. And I like to ask questions. I like to explore things that we don't know. And that was just a really big kind of motivator for me.
I love that. I feel like that's so important because I'm the oldest out of my 3 siblings and my mum was relatively young. So when I was approaching that age where you start getting your period and things start changing, I didn't really get many answers for things that I had questions to. So I feel like I've always had to really look for them.
It was more taboo then. Whereas now it's, even with my husband, I make him name things. Like, it's like we don't call it a whatever we called it when we're little. That is a vulva. That is a vagina. That is a this. And we say those words because it's really important that women understand their bodies and understand what's happening to them. And it's important that men know how to have that discussion too, because I think so many women go to their general practitioner and say, I am having really painful periods or painful sex or anything that they might be going to their doctor for. And if their doctor isn't actively interested, or a woman, a lot of those things are just dismissed as that is normal. And there is a difference between normal and common. And women are navigating a lot of things that are common but not necessarily normal, but not given the resources to know how to help that. Because, you know, you maybe went to, I don't know, back in the day, Dolly Doctor, and Dolly Doctor told
Dolly
you
Doctor
about your periods and sex. But
so true.
That's not a good resource, you know, and that creates confusion, and it doesn't give women clear answers to their bodies.
Yeah, or a safe place to keep asking questions when they're just dismissed or people aren't educated enough to have the conversation. So then it's kind of like, oh yeah, whatever. It is a blessing now that we're in a period of time where these conversations are happening. By being with my partner for just over a year and a bit now, like a year and a half, I think I've learnt the most about my cycle and my body and how things affect me during this time. So I've been able to like bring him along on that journey, because it should be normalized, and that tabooness just limits everyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's important that you have that conversation with your partner for sure. If I was to ask both of you separately, how do you experience your luteal phase? How would you describe that?
See, I'm not as educated as Olivia is with the luteal phase.
Yeah.
How many phases are there, first of all?
She's like, what even is it?
It depends how it depends how it's broken down. So there's a lot of different ways that it can be broken down. If we really simplify it into the most basic, you have the follicular and then you have the luteal phase.
Okay.
In the follicular phase, that's where menstruation and ovulation will occur. So the first day of your period, your cycle, is when your bleed starts. So that's menses, that's menstruation. That is follicular. But there are changes to hormones throughout that cycle. And every woman experiences a different duration in their cycle. So, you know, normal can be anywhere between 21 to 35 days, and you cycle in and out of that between follicular and luteal. But luteal is after ovulation, where an egg has not been successfully fertilized, pregnancy has not occurred, and then the process to shed that uterine lining happens and we get our period. So think of PMS.
Yeah. So it's just before you're getting it.
It's not just before you're getting it, it's right after ovulation.
Okay.
And then the process of that sort of happening, and then menstruation is part of that follicular phase again.
Yeah.
But everyone's cycle is different. So there's not an exact amount of days that you'll stay in that. And not every cycle is the same from month to month. And as you get older and we use up our egg reserve, so our women are born with all of the eggs they will have for their entire life.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
So you can't get any more, like
You can't get any more.
That's it.
No.
Can't go to the shop.
No.
You're born and then you're just.
Yeah. So you have all of the eggs that you will ever have throughout your lifespan.
And they're just leaving us like, see ya.
Why do they?
Why do they leave? Wait, I'm not done with you. I'm not sure what I want to do with you.
Imagine a woman who's 90 and can get pregnant.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine.
And then, that's crazy. So when we're in our mum's belly, we're growing eggs. We have eggs.
Yeah, you have all the eggs that you have.
Wow.
Yeah. And each time you ovulate, those egg reserves decline. So
So each month they're just dropping off.
One, right? One egg.
Not always.
Sometimes
Really?
not
A few?
always.
Not always, yeah. It depends, but it sounds really scary, and I don't like. Let's not be scared.
Guys,
you guys are in your
if you're
20s.
If you're looking at the video, me and Olivia just keep looking at each other like.
I'm booking an egg freezing appointment as we speak.
Yeah, but even I think that's such an important conversation for women to have. You know, when we were doing the prelim for this podcast, I mentioned egg freezing.
Hearing that does scare me though.
Yeah.
To think about doing that.
Egg freezing?
Yeah.
Do you think it should be more normalized? Like, should we be doing it more than not?
I don't necessarily think we should be doing it. I think it should be a conversation that women are aware of. It should be an option that is given to women, you know, because women will start reaching 30 and start asking, what have I done with my life? I was supposed to be married with kids by now and I'm in the midst of building this incredible career. I don't know if I'm ready. I don't even know if I want children.
Yeah.
But a biological clock does exist. However, we should also, I feel, be empowered through choosing when that right time is for us, because not all of us meet our partner by 30.
Yeah.
And some of us are not sure if that's someone we want to have a child with, or you could be building a career, or you could be unsure if you want to have kids. But when women do reach about 35, the quantity and the quality of our eggs starts decreasing. And that doesn't mean that you can't have a healthy pregnancy. Plenty of women do. But the reality is that it's different beyond that period of time. It's what would be considered, and I think they've changed the terminology. It used to be considered a geriatric pregnancy, and that's just
at 35.
I know, which is why they changed the terminology of it.
Yeah,
but if a woman kind of knows, okay, well, my eggs will never be younger than they are now, and the quality of them is going to be better in their 20s than they are in their 40s.
Yeah.
If you freeze your eggs and never use them, then that's fine. But if you decide and you meet your partner who's the love of your life at 40, you can use the eggs that existed as within your 20s, then your 40s, and then that process of going through IVF and
just gives you more options.
It's my bias because I work with women in my coaching, you know, within my coaching, I guess, container where they're 40 and they always thought, I don't want kids.
Then they change their mind.
Yeah, and not always, but they meet a person who's, hey, I really want to raise a family with this person. And to watch them have to go through that is hard, whereas women should have at least the knowledge so that they can choose what they do or do not want to do.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah, it's cool that we have that option now, because imagine it would be so horrible to have to sit at 40 and 50 and be like, shit.
You just can never be sure what you really want because things change.
They do. They change in fucking a day, in a week. It's so hard to be like, yep, in 3 years.
This is what I think I want.
Yeah. People are like, how do you know that you're ready to be a mum? I'm like, I have a 4 and a 5-year-old and I'm still not ready to be a mum. Is the real parents going to come and pick these kids up sometime? But look, I think that it's amazing that both men and women are asking, do we want to have children? Because, you know, when we're naturally told you get married, you have kids, and that is your life. And it doesn't have to be if people don't want it to be, but it's a scary thing to have kids.
Yeah.
I feel like people are being more realistic and logistical about the idea of having kids these days too, where they go, can we financially support 1, 2, 3 kids? Like, let's look at what kind of quality of life do we want to have, and if we go ahead and have a 3rd kid, are we missing out on experiences that we could have as a family of 4? And you know, I feel like because of that expectation or that idea of what you should be doing, people would stretch themselves so thin, and then you know, your parents go, well, I'm so stressed because of you, and then it's all this and trauma.
There are no solutions, only trade-offs, meaning that there's a cost to everything. Whether you choose to have kids, you choose to have 1, 2, 3, there are always costs. But the choice to become a parent, in my opinion, it's the greatest leadership role you will ever play, and you have a responsibility to be a leader and to guide your children through life. So it is a big decision. It's a big decision.
The biggest decision.
Yeah, and then you hear everyone go, but I would never change it for anything. And I'm like, that's all I need.
That's all I need.
Yeah, I'm like, scare me with everything, but then just add that little, but it's the best thing, and I'm still there.
I think that when you're on the outskirt of being a parent, we have access to more information now in social media, just in general. So you hear the hard side of parenting. And I can appreciate that being on the other side of being a parent might scare the shit out of people, because they're like, man, it sounds like all it is hard and it's big and scary. But I want you to think of the biggest lessons that you've had in life, or the biggest achievements that you've had in life. Has any of that ever happened without hardship and without some kind of suffering and having to build resilience? No. Why would literally raising humans not be the hardest thing you've ever done?
Yeah. Why would you expect anything less?
Yeah.
Like, you've never done it before, 1.
Of course it's going to be hard. A lot of my friends now are mums, and the ones that I have spoken to that are finding it not easy, they say the same thing. It is hard. It's an adjustment, but their mindset was, okay, I'm going in. I need to expect that this is their new reality.
Yeah.
And they're enjoying it so much more because they're not putting all this pressure that
everything's perfect.
Yeah, like just that's your next phase of life. Like take that in, enjoy the moments. They're not little for long.
No.
So it's like just take it as it comes. And I think that mindset is when they can actually enjoy being a parent.
Yeah.
And they're not sitting reminiscing about how things were. It's like, okay, that's not how it is now. So move on.
Hard doesn't always equal bad. Hard can just be hard. The two things can be true at once. Something is hard, but it's not bad.
Yeah.
And I do think that there's an element of giving people permission to actually grieve the loss of an old life, because when you become a parent, your life is not the same. Maybe in 10 years, in 15 years, in 20 years, my life will maybe resemble some kind of similarities as it did before I became a mum. But I think that at least for me, when I became a mum, and I shared this with you as well, Bianca, I kept hearing people say, I'm having an identity crisis. I don't know who I am anymore. I'm really struggling with that. And
tell me, sorry.
I can't hear it.
That was loud as shit.
I couldn't hear it.
Yeah, because you're
so
3
far
meters away.
Sorry.
Thanks for that, Justin, by the way. I'm kidding.
No. Yeah, I'm fine.
Are you right?
She's like, oh, and then it went.
They have an identity crisis.
Have an identity crisis. And for me, I didn't really feel the same because I knew who I was. I'm like, I want to do this. I want to achieve this. This is my mission. These are my values. This is where I want to go. This is the life that I want to live. I just didn't have access to the parts of that person that existed before I had kids because I was less autonomous of my time. So I didn't have an identity crisis. I had an autonomy crisis where I wasn't in charge of where and how I spent my time.
Yeah.
And for me, it was less about trying to rediscover who I was because I know who I am. I've always remained the same person. Being a mother has not changed the ambitions that I have in life. But it allowed me to, one, grieve the loss of an old life because you are losing a life that once existed.
Yeah.
And I think that we have to give ourselves permission to grieve that.
100%.
But then also to adjust my expectations of what does this phase of my life look like? And maybe instead of running, I walk. And I don't have to stop. But I also can't compare myself to entrepreneurs who don't have kids and the speed in which they're going because my values are different. And I'll never let the values of how I want to be a mother impact.
Compromise the time.
Yeah. Grieving and acceptance, I think, has helped me at least.
Yeah. How you said things can be hard but not bad. It's like you can be grieving but it's not bad. Kind of trying to be positive about it and like that acceptance, I guess, and the appreciation that you can kind of go, I'm so grateful I've had, 20 or so years to look after myself and be selfish. But yeah, as you transition, just being positive and grateful for it rather than trying to like get back there or be that whilst also taking on this whole new responsibility.
And again, I'm just thinking about my friends that are mums and who I just see them in different mindsets and what they do differently is again the ones that transform into that new role. And yes, your life, we know it changes, but you still can incorporate your children in that new life. Like I think including them, bringing your kids with your friends. Like I think a lot of people think, oh, my friends without kids won't want me to bring my kids. Whereas I'm like, no, this is your life now. Like bring them, incorporate them into our lives and then you don't feel like you've lost as much, if that makes sense. And I watch them bring your kids to the gym or bring your kids to here and it can sort of still work. Bring them to a cafe. Like just because they're little doesn't mean you have to avoid certain things that make you feel good.
Yeah,
you
definitely.
know?
I think that's a testimony to your character as well though, because on your social media, I see you post a lot about your friends' kids, but you, just by doing that, you show your mum friends that you love their kids and you want to be a part of their life and building that for them. So women don't always find that. It changes a lot of friendship dynamics. So I think that's more a testament to your character, Bianca, than
that
anything.
that encouragement to
like show your mum friends that you love their kids.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
be
I would
excited.
want that.
They're never a burden because, for our friends that have kids, they could probably look at our lives and go, wow, you guys are so independent. You have so much time for yourselves. Coffee and a walk for you is coffee and a walk. But if I bring my kid, it's not really a walk. And then they think, oh, I won't burden my independent friend that doesn't have kids with that because what she's looking for is this. But I think that's the beauty of communicating through these changes with your friends who have kids or are becoming new mums, is that reassurance. And just because now you've got another responsibility doesn't mean our friendship changes. It means like we get to level up together, and a coffee and a walk with your kid is still like, it's more valuable than just a coffee and a walk like it used to be, you know? But I think that goes back to that identity crisis and people thinking, oh, my friendship was once like this. So how am I going to move through this friendship now with a kid? And then they would grieve that whole lifestyle, and it would be so consuming in a time that's already the most consuming. Yeah. And so you just, as a friend that doesn't have kids, you just have to empathize, and you just have to talk. Like you need to just try and understand. You need to just always like just be as available as you can be. And
for sure.
I agree. And mum friends need to also try and make time for their friends that don't have kids as well, in the capacity in which they can, to do things that they used to. And it won't always be the same, but it goes both ways. Their life has changed. Maybe if you don't have kids, yours hasn't, but you've got to compromise in a sense and kind of be okay with the chaos of kids running around.
How old did you say yours you are?
My youngest just turned 4 and my eldest is 5.5, so she's 6 next year.
Wow.
It's the cutest age.
Little girl group.
Yeah.
Did you see what was that TikTok I sent you of it was this mum, and she was like, people ask me all the time, do I really want a boy? Am I going to keep trying until I get a boy? And she's like, nah. She's like, I've got my girls. I just say, come on, girls. And then
they walk off.
Yeah, and they all strut off. And she's like, I've got everything I need.
Yeah. I'm a proud girl mum. People are like, do you want to try for a boy? I'm like, no.
I'm good.
I've got my sassy little things that boss me around.
Oh yeah, no one's getting through you three.
I always remind him, I'm like, babe, you're going to have teenagers at the same time you have a perimenopausal wife.
Oh, boom.
I'm like, start therapy now.
Yeah. Book in a retreat.
A 7-year retreat.
Oh,
no.
no.
Is it safe out here?
Yeah. It's like, somebody help me. I do feel sorry for the men out there, but honestly, learning about it is like their biggest superpower. And I say that to Jack all the time, because back to how do you experience your luteal phase?
I was getting back there eventually.
But back to, you know, the last year and a half of Jack and I's relationship being the time that I've learned the most, is because it's the time where I realized how my cycle affects someone else.
Yeah.
And that made me really look back at myself and my contribution to a dynamic. And I just didn't want to be that person who was irritable when he got home because he didn't deserve it. So then I'm like, what's actually going on with myself? Like, where am I at? What's my cycle doing? As I would learn, I would share that with him. So he's so clued on now that he will say, hell yeah, let's go peak week. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what? But he's
Is it ovulation week?
Yeah. He knows about it before I've even clued on that that's where we're at. But he knows how to add or subtract from a situation depending on where I'm at in my cycle. He knows when, if I say something that's like a throwaway comment, he knows when it's okay to bite back at it and when it's not. Yeah. So that's also like sort of encouraged him to step into that leader role that a masculine person in a relationship can take on. And that helps regulate my nervous system like I've never experienced before.
Yeah.
And like having that understanding in your partnership makes you feel safe to feel what you need to feel and communicate what you need to communicate. But yeah, back to how I experience it, it's definitely very like circumstantial for me.
So what are some of the circumstances that might make, let's say, the end of your cycle feel emotionally harder? So you mentioned irritability. What are some of the circumstances that you notice make you feel more irritable around that time of month?
If I'm not prioritizing sleep, if I've gone out and had a few drinks and I'm hungover, it's definitely a reflection of how I'm feeling about my performance, like in my work and my exercise and all these things. So the shame can come on really quickly if I'm not performing, if I'm not having a good proactive work week. That phase can sort of spark things up. But then if all of those things are kind of in line, I rarely even will recognize that I'm in, my luteal phase. That was really interesting to me as well, because I thought, oh, maybe it's placebo.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I've just gone through, it's 10 days before my period. Usually at 10 days before it'll start.
Yeah. So you're not placeboing yourself into it.
But I'm like, 8 days until my period and I haven't felt irritable, or I've actually been like good. And sometimes Jack will be like, Jack's like, you've been like really happy lately. And I'm like, I shouldn't be.
I know. But that is such a perfect example. I mean, I'm so glad that I asked that question, because when we look at the things that help PMS, or even sometimes PMDD, which is a little bit more complex and nuanced, but PMS symptoms can generally be worse when you're not sleeping well. And some women do notice changes within their energy levels at the end of their cycle because of the changes in estrogen and progesterone. But alcohol consumption absolutely makes PMS feel a hell of a lot harder. And the way that I kind of like to describe PMS is all the same stresses are still there, but my ability to manage and tolerate them are just like in the toilet. So I start to create these, you mentioned if I'm not performing really well in my work, it's like I create these stories that I attach my self-worth to, and they're just stories, but the stories are much louder and much meaner when I'm not taking care of my basic needs. So sleep, exercise absolutely helps with PMS, making sure that we're consuming a well-balanced diet, making sure that we are sleeping and not going out partying. I remember when I was 20, I could go out, get stupidly drunk, have 2 hours sleep, and then rock up to work the next day. I'm like,
and you're like,
guys.
I don't even know what a hangover is.
And now I'm like, oh my God.
I'm out for 2 days.
2 days. 2 days.
I'm like a week.
Like, done. So all of those things make a really big difference. And so that's why I think it's important for women to understand that, because emotions and feelings are that they're just feedback, and we can notice them, we can name them, and then ask, what do I want to do with this? And sometimes we don't always have the capacity to ask, what do I want to do with this? We just do this.
And then you're like, oh, shit.
But you have to double down on the things that help you. So, with menopause, it's like, don't worry, I can't hear it. I can't hear it.
I can't hear it this time either.
With menopause, it's like you have to do more of the things that look after you and double down on your sleep and double down on exercise and reducing alcohol and all of these things. So I think it's just awareness of it helps you to adjust when you notice you're in that period.
Yeah, understanding that your tool belt is less full of the tools you need during that time. So how am I going to sub that in with other things? Yeah, just that intentional preparation, even with your mental health. Like, I'm not going to have the same expectations of myself in this phase as I would in my peak week, because I will have less energy. My body's going through changes, and then your self-talk and your self-love and all of that kind of flows through.
And that's the thing about like perimenopause as well. We start to experience those sensations a little bit more intensely, because when our egg reserves are declining, our body and our brain that normally would signal do this is noticing I don't have as many resources I used to have, so I have to work a little bit harder to make it happen. And that's what the perimenopausal transition can feel like for women. So it's kind of PMS, but taken over a longer period of time. But Bianca, how do you experience this?
I'm so interested.
I know, I'm sitting here listening. I feel like I'm not as
in tune yet.
I'm in tune, but I just don't really let it. I don't know. I definitely feel like this week I'm in that phase, and I've definitely felt like this morning I tried to go and train. It just felt so hard to even go and train, and I was foul. Like I was
foul is like the epitome.
Explanation.
Like that is the word. That's just how you feel. You're like,
foul.
Oh, I'm just,
I was hoping
nobody talked to me.
I was honestly, because I usually know a few people that are in the class, and I'm like, I was just hoping they wouldn't be there. And they weren't.
I can't pretend to like you.
Just letting you know.
Yeah.
I don't got time for you.
Yeah, so I definitely feel all those emotions, but I can move it along, I think. Like I try not to sit too much and be like, okay, I'm in my luteal. Like I don't really say it out loud. I just go, oh, okay, I'm clearly in that phase. Things do feel harder.
Yeah.
And things are a lot more, yes, irritable, and I feel all those emotions. I just try sort of not, I'm a bit opposite to you in that. Like I try not to name it, even though it's good to name it, but I just try not to actually voice that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm still feeling it. I'm still going through it.
Yeah.
I just go, all right, this is where we're at. I feel shit. It is what it is. I know next week I'll feel good.
Better, yeah.
Yeah,
And-
you're letting that feedback have its moment, but then you're easily like moving it along.
Yeah.
Which is, you are still acknowledging it though. You are still naming it and identifying that.
Yeah.
Because then you can kind of go, that's what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know
I
it's
don't
just
hate my
that.
husband. He's amazing.
Yeah.
I'll love him tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm foul because this is what's happening, but that's as much as it needs to, you know,
to
impact
be.
my day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess then it'll be different, when I do have a partner and you're noticing that more, whereas I don't really, it's not like a day-to-day thing for me to really burst out at people, if that makes sense, because I don't like I don't have that person there all the time to be like, fuck, you're annoying me.
Yeah.
It's very minimal where I have to react.
Yeah. And everyone's different too.
Yeah.
Everyone's really different, which is, I think, really fascinating looking at, I guess, a rise in popularity with menstrual-based cycle syncing workouts and your nutrition. And we've had a ton of research on that, actually testing that hypothesis, because sometimes we take mechanistic ways of thinking to be like, oh, well, all women around their period are irritable, tired, and that's not always true. Yes, if we associate the changes in the hormones across the cycle, mechanistically it might make sense that more women feel like that. But if you ask me when I hit my best PBs, it's when I have my period. Like I always PB when I have my period.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and around ovulation, I feel more tired. And I have noticed that that's changed throughout as I've gotten older. My symptoms have changed. And when that happens, changes, I notice that a lot of my clients, their symptoms happen around ovulation, where it used to happen at around menstruation. So when we think about trying to change our training or nutrition or how we approach our emotional regulation, everyone is different. And so it has to be more about auto-regulating rather than cycle syncing, if that makes sense. And the difference between that is really auto-regulation is noticing that there are a multitude of things that impact your performance, your energy levels, your mood, and it's not always, oh, I'm luteal, so therefore I have to be like this, because you can take care of yourself in the luteal phase and not notice those symptoms. So every woman is very different in how they experience that as well. And same with perimenopause. Some women get the brunt of symptoms. Some women don't notice that they're going through it at all. So it's just about, I think, more so being in tune with what's happening for you.
I think that your circumstances can elevate your symptoms. So prioritizing your mobility, your training, your sleep, your nutrition, and all these things, these boring things that everyone talks about. And you know that trend, it's like, unfortunately, like going for a walk does help your mental health, or unfortunately drinking enough water and getting sleep does, you know, have this roll-on effect that changes the whole trajectory of your life.
Yeah.
So
you have to take better care of yourself. You do.
There's
You do.
literally no excuse for it. And that's and that also, I think, when you see someone not prioritizing this type of care and then they use their hormones and things to then enable poor treatment or the lack of self-control around things, you kind of lose respect. I don't know. I'm getting
It's really important to have agency. Agency meaning I am in control of how I choose to respond to things. So rather than reacting to things, we choose to respond. To me, those two words mean very different things. I can react or I can respond, which is intentional.
We've been talking about that too.
I think it's really complicated because it's also a time in life where you're like, I've lived probably the best years that I had. And is this what I've done? Is this it? Will I ever have more than this? And men actually reach that point sooner than women, generally around their 40s, where it's like, is this it? This is it? And women, it's a bit later, but you are absolutely right that you have to take better care of yourself when you're transitioning through that period of time. And some women do experience a lot more symptoms that they can't really make sense of, like brain fog. Some women really, it's like their brain just doesn't work anymore. That's what it can feel like. Or their sleep is so disrupted. You know, they're going to bed the same time, but the quality of their sleep is just so impacted. And if you think about the days that you're the most tired, you are more irritable, you just don't tolerate stress better, training feels like absolute shit. So it's about, you know, trying to find solutions that help with the symptoms of however you experience that, but none of it negates the fact that don't step over $100 bills to get to pennies.
Yeah.
Sleep as best as you can. Stop drinking alcohol. Just stop
drinking
doing
alcohol.
it.
Alcohol. If you had told us that 2 years ago, we were balls deep in drinking alcohol.
Yeah, it was like, why not?
And we were in that phase. Yeah. But now as you get older, it really is
not worth it.
It's not worth it. And I've realized just so much. And I look at all the times where I have made mistakes in the way of being reactive. And what was I doing?
Yeah,
I was drinking.
Yeah.
I'm not like saying I'm sitting at home drinking, but I was out and something had happened. I'm clearly intoxicated. I look at a situation, I see it this way when the reality is this.
Yeah.
Like it does change so much going on in your head, and you just can't process things the way you would without alcohol. We still love a drink. We still love a good time, but it's more social, a little bit here and there.
The value in that environment, the last thing on the list is the alcohol. Whereas when, you know, you're in that phase,
you're like, I just want to go.
I just like, you get there, the agenda is drinks, next drink. But now you're more present and you go, we'll share a bottle of wine, but that's like just like a little bonus thing. It's not the entire occasion.
I don't drink at all. The last time I was drunk was on my 21st birthday.
Wow.
And I remember so I met my husband when I was 20. We got married when I was 21. I'm now nearly 35. We've been together for a long time.
Wow.
But this was very new in our relationship. And I remembered I'm like, I do not like who I become when I am an asshole. Like I am so mean. And I really didn't like that side of myself because I loved him and love him. And I was like, I don't want to do this to a person who I love. But outside of how we react when we are intoxicated, there's a whole ton of new evidence that shows us that alcohol consumption, even at moderate intakes, increases especially females' risk of several types of cancers.
Wow.
Pretty significantly.
Wow.
It impairs our ability to sleep. So we sleep for the same duration if we do, but the quality of that sleep is decreased when we do drink alcohol. But it's more that association with the cancer risk.
Yeah. We just need to get more realistic about it. Like we're hearing all these facts, but then it's just such a culture, drinking culture, that it's like, oh, you know, who cares? It's only, you know, twice a month, or there's still so many ways to enable that. Coming back to that social aspect. So some people's argument, and look, I am all for people choosing what feels best for them. Who am I to say what you should or shouldn't do? But some people will justify the engagement of alcohol to say, oh, but you know, you get that social connection. And it's like, but the benefits of that exist without the alcohol. The connection with other humans is the benefit that you get from that engagement. If you can't sit with the people that you love without being somewhat buzzed, then you've taken that away. It's like you're not in a connection where you can safely just be your authentic self. And whether or not the alcohol was there, if you were around people that you loved and that was the purpose of the meetup, all those benefits are there. It's not the alcohol, it's the people that you love. Yeah, I think, and as you get older too, I think it's like a lack of evidence to convince you that you can have these social nights without alcohol because you've, you know, been introduced to alcohol, you're 18, you're drinking, and then all of a sudden you're approaching 30 And every time you go out for a dinner, you've had that alcohol. So it's almost like being brave enough to enter these situations, remove the alcohol, start building that evidence that you can still have a great night, if not a better night, more socially connected, and having that peace of mind that you remained true and authentic to yourself.
Yeah.
Because you were able to remain reasonable the whole time.
And not feel like shit the next day.
Yeah. And then all you do is take the joy and like you can wake up and go, that was such a fun night, and that's it.
Yeah.
You're not, that's a fun night, but now I feel like shit.
Yeah. I went to a wedding 2 weeks ago and I had the best time dancing. And there was once a time where I was like, I would never be able to get up on the dance floor without at least a few drinks ever.
Yeah. But it's just what your brain's saying because you're used to that, right?
Yeah. And it was really hard at first, you know, especially in my 20s. It was like, why aren't you having a drink? Because it is so socially, it's just part of our society. But, you know, smoking was once widely accepted as something that could potentially be healthy, and it was cool and it was this. And now we look at it and we're like, what the fuck were we thinking? Like, I'm sorry. I don't know if alcohol will ever get there, but it's just, I think it's a good representation of how ingrained in our society it is. And at first you lose friends who were probably there just simply for that. We get drunk together or, you know, it's a, what do they call it? Not a friend, a
foe.
Not a foe. I can't remember.
Like a transactional sort of.
Yeah. And then you find people who they start to know you're not, okay, we don't offer Sheridan a drink, but she's here and she's having fun and she can do that. And
so it is. It goes back to just being brave to just start doing that. And then the dynamics that you enter become easier because you're not going to get questioned as much because they then are on board with, you know, your values, and she doesn't drink anymore. So people aren't getting rejected when you say, oh no, I'm all good for a drink. And then they go, oh, like, you know,
are you even Australian?
Like all that talk, that would just be so frustrating. But it's a massive achievement.
Yeah, I never drank though because I enjoyed it. It was like, where's my double Smirnoff? Like, I need 3 to be drunk and we're done. It was not a good time. It was a great time, but the point is that it's done now.
I'm still not fully there. Like, I don't think I'll ever be like, I'm going to go sober. Mine's very, again, situational. If I'm there, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'm feeling the vibe. I'll have a couple, but I find I'm very, a lot more disciplined. If I'm just going to have 2, I will actually have 2.
Yeah.
Whereas before, I'd be like, I have a couple and then
10 drinks later.
Yeah.
Next minute.
Yeah. Jack says to me, he goes, sweetheart. He's like, you are so reasonable 90% of the time. He goes, when you drink, absolutely not. He's like, there is no reasoning with you. And I go, yes, I'm aware of that. Back to that point that you made as well, when, you know, you love your partner and then you go, wow, I'm being so mean. I don't want to do this. You want to be the best partner for them, but also for yourself. That is the biggest encouraging, like the most encouraging thing, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes you want to just be the best better. Because that's what they deserve. But in saying that, I'm probably not going to go sober either.
YOLO.
So when we did put up a question box, it was a lot to do with PCOS, PMDD. What does that mean? And endometriosis. Why can't I say that?
You said it right. Endometriosis.
Yeah.
Endometriosis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just no confidence behind it.
I know, because I'm like, is that right?
Endometriosis.
So one of the questions is like PCOS and endometriosis. What are signs women often ignore?
So PCOS and endometriosis are 2 different things. People often lump them together. Can you have them together? Yes, you can, but they're 2 different things. So PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome, which it's not a great name for because you can have PCOS but not have cysts on your ovaries. So that's not necessarily a prerequisite for the diagnosis. PCOS, the diagnostic criteria is you have to have 2 of the 3 kind of things that's within the triad. So you either have to have polycystic ovaries or you have to have high androgens, which is high levels of androgens, being testosterone, for example, or you have to have irregular or absent periods. If you have 2 of those 3, then you meet the clinical diagnosis for PCOS. Now, it doesn't sound like it's a big deal to say, oh, okay, you have absent periods, you might have high androgen levels, you might have cysts on your ovaries, cool, go and get them removed, you're fine. But one of the biggest issues with PCOS is it can create insulin resistance. So similar to that, it's a bit different in the way that it works, but ultimately we think of type 2 diabetes where someone is resistant to the insulin that's telling their body to put glucose into the cells. That creates issues with their cardiovascular health, with their metabolic health. It can create issues with fertility. So some women with PCOS, because they have absent or irregular periods, they don't ovulate. And if you can't ovulate, you can't get pregnant. So there's issues with that. And there's also issues where if there is issues with, say, a woman who doesn't have a period, but she does have that increase in the endometrial lining, which usually happens when you're about to ovulate, but it doesn't shed, it can increase your risk of certain cancers as well. So it's a pretty significant diagnosis for women to have. But when I said, we have this slogan that is women are underrepresented in sports science research, I would have to argue that this is one of the areas that we just need. I don't know if we necessarily need more research on the pathophysiology of it, so like how it works, but the estimated amount of women who have it is 1 in 10. So 10% of women may have PCOS. But up to 70% of those are not diagnosed. So there's a really big gap between clinical diagnoses, and that's for a variety of reasons, but it can impact, women's ability to have children and a lot of other things. So it's a metabolic issue in a lot of ways, whereas endometriosis is when tissue similar to the lining of your uterus ends up outside of the uterus. And that can create a lot of inflammation, a lot of pain, issues with fertility. Endometriosis can really impact people's quality of life because it can be very painful depending on the severity of where that tissue is and how much of it is. And it's not a curable condition. So when we think about PCOS, we know a lot more about the treatment through nutrition training than we do endometriosis. There's a lack of research with endometriosis pretty significantly. We need a lot more resources there. But when we look at, I won't go into the medical treatment of it because it's out of my scope, but there are a lot of things medically that you can do. So PCOS, there's medications that can help regulate blood sugar, help you ovulate, bring down, androgen levels, etc. Endometriosis, there's surgery to remove the tissue that's grown outside of the uterus. But from a nutrition perspective with PCOS, mostly it's about managing the insulin resistance. If you can get on top of the insulin resistance, you decrease a lot of the flow-on effects that happen. So the infertility, high blood sugars, cardiovascular disease. And how we do that is regular exercise, resistance training, always. If it's relevant for you, reducing body fat. So if you have more body fat, then reducing it can bring down that. A high fiber diet. If we think about just what is generally a good quality diet, fruits, vegetables, grains, fiber, fatty fish, etc., that can really help as well. And there's some supplements that can help, but that's complicated. There's one which is inositol, which I will say has pretty good research around helping ovulation. So I think it's, and don't quote me on it, but I think it's 2 to 4 grams a day for at least 6 months, and you may see clinical improvements in ovulation.
Is there, sorry to cut you off, is there like a is that the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Same thing. Whereas endometriosis, we know a lot less about how to potentially not cure it, but manage it in some ways through diet. Exercise is always going to be helpful, but the quality of the research we have is really an anti-inflammatory diet, which I hate that terminology because what is an anti-inflammatory diet? Inflammation is needed in a lot of contexts, but if you think of like a Mediterranean style diet, again, fruits, veggies, lean proteins, fish, etc., because it's an inflammatory condition. So if we can bring that down, There is some research showing that a lower gluten, like a gluten-free diet might help, but I think that we get this confused with IBS symptoms, so irritable bowel syndrome. A lot of women who have endometriosis find that they have IBS. And so it's more that FODMAPs, which is what can trigger IBS, create the discomfort rather than gluten, because a lot of FODMAPs contain gluten, if that makes sense. Yeah. So sometimes a low FODMAP diet can help, but it's always important to do that with a dietitian, because we should never remove anything without then trying to reintroduce. Otherwise, it creates too much restriction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
And I didn't touch on PMDD, but that's PCOS and endometriosis.
Yeah.
I think it's crazy that you can't actually be diagnosed with endometriosis without having the surgery. That's true, right?
Yeah, and it takes approximately 5 to 7 years to get a diagnosis for it. So part of your question was, what are symptoms people often ignore? Again, coming back to what is normal versus common. Just because something is common, it doesn't make it normal. So if you're experiencing period pains that you can't go to work, you can't leave the house, it significantly impacts your quality of life. That's not normal. And that is something that should be addressed. If you are not getting periods, that should absolutely be addressed, because outside of, women might think, oh, I don't want to get pregnant. It's great if I don't have a period. It's like estrogen is very important for your bone health, which is why in menopause we see that decline in bone mass, because estrogen declines, and those two have a strong association. When you don't get a period, you have low levels of estrogen. And remember, we reach our peak bone mineral density by the time we're 30. So women who are athletes or who are in a modeling industry where their size is very attached to what they do, there is sometimes low energy availability. And when there's low energy availability, they don't menstruate, because it's more important to keep your brain on, heart beating, than it is for you to have a baby, essentially. But that impacts how much bone that you build throughout that period of time. So those are things that you should not ignore.
Yeah, there was definitely a period of time. There was a period of time I didn't have my period. So there's no period.
Period.
Yeah, period. I was in a phase of life where I was exercising heavily. I was not prioritizing having enough meals. And this was kind of reflective of where I wanted to be and how I wanted to look in my modeling career. Yeah. And all of a sudden I lost my period. I lost it for 6 months. At first I was kind of like, oh, maybe I'm just a bit stressed or whatever. And then as it goes on, I felt like it was like I was free falling. Like I didn't feel like I was in touch with myself anymore, because it was so, strange for me not to have my period. Then I started thinking, okay, well, I'm single now, so it's not really relevant. But when I do find a partner, if I still don't have my period, what if I never get it back? I think losing my period was the way I identified that something really wasn't right. Yeah. And then I ended up taking all the steps that I needed to then get it back. And the day that I got it back, I was like sitting on the toilet and I just cried my eyes out. Did I text you?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. I have clients, we call them period parties. Yeah. Let me know. We'll have a period party.
Yeah. And it's just like, hallelujah. I'm so grateful for something that's, so normal to get monthly, for it to just stop happening. You really weigh up what is worth it. Like, do I want to be healthy and have a body that's functioning and that I'm looking after, or do I want to be exercising for 4 hours a day and hardly, fueling myself enough to be able to do that, not have my period and, lose my bone density?
Yeah, shit.
I'm going to shrink like anything. With society now and people wanting to be like so thin, and then they lose their period. Like when I started posting about the fact I hadn't had my period on social media, the amount of girls messaging me going, same, let me know what's helping you, what you're doing. And that's why I knew of that inositol. Yeah, because I was like, somebody help me. And I was researching all of this stuff. And
some people refer to a menstrual cycle as like a vital sign. And technically it's not. When we think about vital signs, it's like blood pressure, heart rate, respiration rate, temperature. But those are the things that just determine whether or not you exist. not whether your life is optimal or you're healthy, because we have birth control. If we don't want to have children at a certain time, that's fine. But it's so important for your bone mass. And it's a sign that you have low energy availability. Your body is not getting enough of what it needs to keep your organs functioning. You know, it's keeping the main ones functioning, but it says, okay, we don't have enough resources here. We don't have money to spend elsewhere. What are we going to shut down? Okay, well, we wouldn't be able to support a baby anyway. Like a baby requires more resources, and I'm not in a place where I could do that and give that resource to a growing a human.
Wow.
We don't need that.
Closing down shop.
Close the shop.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the more?
Send the staff elsewhere.
Yeah. But the longer you go without, like, you know, 6 months, you still don't want to be going without a period. But it's amazing that you were like, okay, I'm going to get on top of this, because when you look at a lot of women who are in an industry where they're literally their livelihood is tied to the jobs that they book, you know, people can be like, oh, it's so vain. It's like, no, that's how I make money. You know, if you weren't making money, you can't eat, you can't pay your bills. You know, this is what I do. Or athletes, you know, gymnasts, dancers who they have to keep weight in order to be able to be competitive in what they do. So women are just naturally at higher risk. Men have low energy availability and they get REDs as well. But it's just much more common in women.
And what's the longest you've heard a woman not have a period for?
Oh, years.
Really?
Years. Yeah. And there's some certain contraceptions, and absolutely not within my scope to recommend contraceptions, but there's the depot shot, the shot that you actually take. It's not supposed to be taken long term because it can decrease bone mineral density. But women go from GP to GP or doctor to doctor, not having that continuity of care, and they stay on the depot for 10, 15 years, and they don't know that it impacts bone health. So it's not that contraception is bad. You know, I think that we've come to a place where we are somehow calling a woman's right to choose whether or not she wants to have a baby this bad thing. It's like, no. That's pretty amazing that women have that option. But, you know, some contraception increases risk of cancer, some decrease it quite significantly. And so there are no solutions. There are only trade-offs. There is a cost to everything. And for me, being a nurse, it's always just been about inform people of risks versus benefits. And then you choose, does the potential benefit of this outweigh the risks or the other way around? And then you choose what feels best for you.
I'm unconscious. Why can't I say anything? Contraception.
There you go.
I actually like that I still get my period even if I'm on contraception, because some you don't get it.
So you don't menstruate. So
Gotcha.
what you get when you take contraception is a withdrawal bleed. So
I've got the Mirena. So is that?
Oh, is it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that can be a little bit different because that's like localized hormones. Essentially, some women don't get a period with the Mirena. So yeah, it depends on what contraception you're taking. But if it's like an oral contraception, you don't have the highs and lows of what you get throughout a natural menstrual cycle. So estrogen, progesterone, all of that stays relatively stable. Whereas in a naturally occurring cycle, it's high and low, but different with Mirena. And then you can get the copper Mirena, a copper IED, I should say, which is a bit different too.
Yeah. But then I notice, when I am stressed, I won't bleed.
Stress definitely delays my period. If I've been really stressed in, the lead up, then I can go, oh, that's why it's, 2-3 days late.
Yeah. Yeah. Stress impacts
Everything.
everything. My husband's family, like he grew up on a farm, and there's a saying which the stressed chickens don't lay eggs. That's not technically scientific, but
even when my friends were messaging, oh, my period's late, I'm like, think about the weeks that you've just had, you know, and all the things, like the emotional exertion of where you were at during this week. Like it's normal. Is it normal?
Yes,
it's normal to have a delayed start to your period if you've been stressed.
Stress can. Some women are more sensitive to those changes. So it's if you look at bikini competitors, for example, or bodybuilders, some women will consistently have a period. Some will lose it weeks out. Some will lose it a week before. energy availability certainly plays a role in that, but stress also impacts energy availability. So it just depends on the person.
Everyone's so different.
Different.
And that's the hardest part about even what you do, because it's like what's going to work for me won't work for Liv. It's just so, you have to tailor something to that person.
But the education is still beneficial.
Yeah.
Like to hear it all and
Yeah, of
understand
course.
and learn.
Yeah. Like I didn't know half the stuff that we've learned today, or just
how to say anything.
Yeah, the language, I think this is really beneficial for people listening. If you're like me and weren't aware of a lot of this sort of stuff, it's, I've learned a lot. So.
Good.
It's baffling when you learn things that you didn't know before, but then it's also exciting because you're like, what else can I learn? I just want to learn everything.
Yeah.
The more I learn, the more I realize I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Like when I was first coming into this industry, I'm like, I am so smart.
Yeah.
I know everything. Quiz me. And now I'm like,
Quiz me.
I know nothing.
You're like,
don't ask me.
Yeah.
But I think that's good. There's like this saying, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. Like I think that you always want to learn from someone else. So I feel like doing the pod as well, I love it. Yeah. I'm like, shit, we're gone.
It's also called the Dunning-Kruger effect though, which is when you first start to acquire knowledge about something, you think you're an expert. And when you actually reach expert status, you realize how much you don't know. And then there's this period where you get kind of like imposter syndrome. You're like, I know nothing. And then the more you accumulate, you never really get back to that I know everything, but you like don't think you're dumb shit anymore.
Yeah.
So
I'm
working toward being like,
I'm not a dumb shit.
Yes.
No,
you're
definitely not. I even find that throughout my career, I've been in social media for like 10 years. And it's only until people ask me for help with something that I then surprise myself with the knowledge that I have. But I've continuously carried this like, I don't know, this thing in my head that I don't really know that much. And I don't know, it's just minimizing
I don't know.
It's like minimizing the knowledge that I have, but it's also because the industry is like ever evolving. I never want to be so narrow-minded to think that I know how everything works. But then, people will go, oh, that's why you do what you do, because of how you've just helped me do something. But you just never want to think that you know it all.
No,
because then you miss out on
you do
those.
when you're young, and then you realize, like, as you get older, you're like, somebody please tell me exactly step by step what I should do about this. Whereas when you're 19, 20, you're like, don't tell me.
I can do it.
I know.
Yeah.
My mum and dad know nothing, and now you're like, please
help me.
But I read this quote once, and I don't know if it resonates with you guys. It absolutely resonated with me. But it's like, first you idolize your parents, then you villainize them, and then you humanize them. So meaning when you're a kid, you think that your mum and dad, your parents can do no wrong. They know everything. They are the safest place. They'll have all the answers. And then you grow up and then you start to see their flaws in, I wouldn't do that the way that you did it, and that was wrong, and I don't like this part about you, and I noticed this about you, and you villainize them. But then you come to a place where you're like, oh, you are human, and you were just navigating this very messy, complex thing that is life with the tools and resources that you had at the time. And now I have better tools and resources, and I'm going to choose to do something better with it, but you still did your very best that you could.
Yeah.
Yes.
But how much do you humanize?
I think humanizing is realizing that people make different decisions with different tools and resources. And sometimes we get better ones, so we have the perception of making better decisions. And two things can be true. You did the best you could with the tools and resources that you had or you have. And the other element of that is it's still not good enough, but you're doing your best. I'm just going to make my best better than yours.
Yeah. I like how you said that.
What's PMDD?
Premenstrual dysphoric disorder. We can talk about that.
One of our listeners wrote in, the best way to support friends with PMDD.
Oh, that's a really great question.
What is it?
So PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So it's more recently it's been seen as more of a mental health disorder, psychiatric I don't like the terminology of
Yeah,
that,
I'm
a
like,
psychiatric disorder. It's not that. But the point is, when we think about depression, it's not, you can't just be like, oh, you've got everything that you want, be happy. It's a change in some of how the brain works, chemicals, et cetera, in the most simplest form that I can put it for something that requires a lot of nuance. But it's a more severe form of PMS where it can be quite debilitating. So the symptoms that we tend to think of with PMS, irritability, sometimes sadness, sometimes anger, lots of different things that we might experience. Women with PMDD experience that on a completely different level. You know, it affects their relationship, their ability to go to work. Some women have suicidal ideations with it, which is why that psychiatric component comes into it. It can be like the worst form of depression you can have, but you get it every month at a certain period of time. And then once the bleed begins, it gets better. So one, I think that we need to be really careful with trying to just manage PMDD with go for a walk and do all of those things are very important. Exercise, walking, sleeping, etc. But some people need more support. And so always go to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist, someone who can kind of help you manage that period. And some women notice it more so around perimenopause, when there's big changes sort of happening with those hormones. But I think as a friend, you would support them the way that you support a friend who maybe has depression. So one, you don't take it personally. Try not to abandon them in their, you know, the times that they're not necessarily themselves. Be aware of changes in behavior. Are they withdrawing? Are they not engaging in things that used to bring them joy? And encourage them to go and get help, because we can't fix everything. Sometimes it's about just letting people know that there's an option here. I think that you should take it, or having a conversation with them to let them know I've been noticing changes within you, and not making it personal about behavior, but I'm worried about you, I'm concerned about you. And I think that that's probably the best thing that you can do. And don't do the whole, oh, it's because you got your period. Are you getting your period? Because you're getting your period, right? It's like, do you want to die?
Yeah.
Because it's so much more than PMS. I think that that's
a deeper thing.
Yeah, I think that's the stigma that I'm trying to remove. It's not just about PMS. It can significantly affect people who do experience it. And it's every month. And it starts, there's a trend, which is why, again, I think tracking your period over time is empowering for women, because one, yes, if you want to fall pregnant, you might have a rough gist of where you ovulate. It'll never be exact. But as you get older and you reach 35, 40, 45, we start to see changes in our period, the duration of it, how frequently it comes. Some people get it a lot more frequently, some people extend. But when we think about things like perimenopause, you don't go and get a blood test to say, hey, you're in perimenopause. It's a symptom-based diagnosis. And so if women are having problems with sleeping, for example, and they start tracking that, there is potential options. We don't use the word hormone replacement therapy. We use menopause instead, for reasons that, you know, menopause is natural. It's not replacing. But some women, let's say if they have hot flashes, maybe estrogen can help with that. And that's a conversation that they always have with their doctor. But if we don't track that and we don't know patterns, one, what is a normal pattern for me? And two, what is not normal? If we don't know the difference between those, we can't advocate for ourselves in an endocrinologist's office or a GP's office to say, this is not normal for me. This is happening frequently. I'm experiencing this, because it's a symptom-based approach rather than a clinical diagnosis, if that makes sense. But PMDD, you might start to notice I'm just not myself. Like I'm having these thoughts and this isn't like me. So you know your baseline of what's normal and what's not.
Yeah. Well, there you go, ladies. Whoever's listening, start tracking your period if you're not, because like Sheridan said, you can advocate for yourself better.
Yay.
I know something. I'm not a dumbass.
She's not a dumb shit.
We knew we brought her here for a reason.
Yeah. And that's why we brought it. To wrap up the ep, guys, we're going to do a quick fire. You know we love quick fires that never really end up being quick. But anyway, we're going to run through a few things and Sheridan's going to identify them as either myths or facts. And then you can elaborate as you wish.
Can I do true or untrue? Because like that just sits better with my brain.
Yep.
True or untrue? Okay.
She's
true or
changing the whole
game.
I'm like, who does she think she is?
True.
No.
Not true.
True or false?
Yeah, true or false.
There we go.
Truth or dare?
Dare.
Okay.
All right, first one. True or false? You can't exercise on your period.
False. Exercise improves symptoms of PMS and cramps.
Preach it.
Breastfeeding makes weight loss easier.
False.
Ooh,
Well, that was a quick one.
a quick fire.
Just quick to that one.
False.
We need a, I
Really?
think, can you elaborate?
Mm-hmm. How much do you want me to elaborate?
So Justin, how much time we got?
I mean, just my wife's gone through.
He's like,
the time doesn't exist.
He's like, all the time you need, ladies.
We've got 3 hours.
Yeah. He like, puts his voice recorder.
He's got no.
So breastfeeding does require more calories. So women burn more calories just through breastfeeding, actually more than they burn building a person. So in pregnancy, women need less calories than they do in breastfeeding. So
Wow.
with exclusively breastfeeding, some women need upwards of 600 calories more per day.
Wow.
The nuance is in that is a completely separate part of metabolism. So in metabolism, we have 4 components. We have basal metabolic rate, which is the energy need to just keep the lights on. We have your thermic effect of feeding, which is what it costs to digest and metabolize food. We have exercise and we have NEAT. So NEAT is like your subconscious fidgeting, blinking. You don't realize that you're doing it. Some people have a higher NEAT. You will notice that I do a lot of this and I move a lot around a lot.
Me, I'm not burning shit while sitting
you're like,
here.
I'm like
Yeah. So that's driven a lot by genetics.
European.
But
Are you European?
no, I don't know.
Oh, I'm
I'm
sorry.
a
I
bit
don't know.
I'm
Never
a bit to everything.
She's type
I
A.
always ask people this.
I'm sure I'm European. There's something. Well, aren't we all a little bit European?
Yeah, I've got a quarter of French or something in me.
Oh, oui.
Shit, I'm so sorry. Keep going.
And she tries to make meaning of something. She's
Yeah.
like, European?
That's it. No,
Star sign.
Hold up.
So that's our metabolism. Breastfeeding is a completely separate one. Now, if we add 600 calories onto all of that, what happens when we decrease NEAT because you're dog shit tired because you're breastfeeding every hour overnight and you are exhausted, which will impact your NEAT? What if you're not exercising? So we can offset the amount of calories needed with just the postpartum environment. That's important because to lose weight, you need to burn more than you eat. When we think about sleep deprivation, it impacts our ability to regulate our hunger and full signals. We are hungrier than we usually are. So we can sometimes eat over what is needed to lose weight. Some women are more affected by that than others. The other thing that we know is that sleep deprivation will impact where you lose weight from. So if you are sleep deprived, you lose more muscle than fat. So you can lose the weight, but you're not necessarily losing fat. So it can come down to one, genetics, but also every single baby is different. My first daughter slept through the night from 3 months old. My second daughter didn't sleep through the night until she was 3.5. It was every few hours.
Your second daughter. Wow. You're like, what is this?
The first one gave us false hope. We're like, this is easy. We are great parents. And then my second was like, fuck you are.
Just when you thought.
Like, no.
Yeah.
So it's true for some women, but it's not a given. Breastfeeding doesn't guarantee that you'll lose weight faster. And some women find that until they stop breastfeeding, they don't lose the weight.
Yeah, so you can't really bank on anything changing or
No.
Any questions you like for your wife?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Wait, we can't hear what Justin says on the thing.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah,
So just, can you summarize what he said?
Okay, so the question was, if you go in too much of a deficit, can it impact milk supply? We have research showing that losing 500 grams per week doesn't impact milk supply. milk supply can be impacted in quite severe deficits, but this is a very extreme way of thinking about it. But if we think of areas in the world where starvation or lack of food might be more apparent, mothers can still breastfeed because the reality is that the needs of the baby will be met before the needs of the woman. So if anything, it's at detriment to the woman. Do I recommend a steep deficit? No, because one, we're going to increase the risk of losing muscle. We already lose muscle in pregnancy. We lose bone mass in pregnancy as well, which we need to rebuild after we have the baby. But it also reduces micronutrients. So the baby's nutrition is actually made from the blood of the mum. So all the nutrients that the baby gets is from the levels that the mum has in her bloodstream. If you reduce calories, you reduce food, you reduce micronutrients. And so you can increase deficits or deficiencies in certain micronutrients for the baby. The other thing that there is, I'm not 100% sold that this is a reality, but if you are in a deficit, there is some research showing that it changes the make of the milk. So the milk, I'm going to butcher this, and it's more complicated than this, but there are parts of the milk that have more fat, some parts of the milk that don't have as much fat. Someone's going to hear this and be like, oh, that's not quite right. Yes, I know, but let's just really simplify it for this. There's some research showing that baby will need to feed longer to get the same amount of calories from the feed. So some mums might associate that with they're feeding more, they're not as full and content, and therefore my milk supply is decreasing. But it doesn't necessarily mean the milk supply is decreasing. How do you know your milk supply is decreasing? Is your baby losing weight? Are they doing less pees, less poos? Because that indicates that they're not getting the calories that they need.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
Very great.
Does that answer your question? Okay.
Yeah.
Supplements fix hormone issues.
No. See an endocrinologist.
Full stop.
Period.
Period. Cravings during PMS means you're deficient.
False.
Lifting heavy weights makes pelvic floor issues worse.
No.
False.
False.
Myth.
Fuck, I've changed it again. I could elaborate on that, but I won't.
Okay, we'll save it for
Part 2. I could, talk to you for hours and hours and hours.
Oh, good.
So that
I'm not boring.
You're
way.
far from boring. And the way you explain things, for someone like me who hasn't heard a lot of this terminology, it's easy to still follow. So
Good.
yeah.
you made it easy to understand.
Good.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
noticed myself not blinking when you were talking because I'm like absorbing it all. And I'm like literally everything around you went blurry. And I'm like
I'm going to pass out.
I think that's just her eyesight.
I'm not, because I've had to work really hard at not speaking academically. It's very difficult to not, because when you are in a medical field, you have to speak.
Use that terminology.
Yeah,
No,
so
you
it's
really
been hard to
balance it out almost. No, you did a really good job. And
Yeah.
you used like some new words that I'm going to look up later.
Yeah.
What are the words?
What does nuance mean?
Oh,
Yeah, please.
how does
Do you
one
know?
explain nuance?
I've heard it a lot.
It sounds like a restaurant.
It's like it's complicated. There is more to. It's not black and white. There is shades of grey.
Complex.
That's it. There's shades of grey.
Yeah.
I say grey area, but now I'm going to say
Nuance. And so for our listeners, she's laughing with water in her mouth, and I'm asking her a question.
Oh, we're not done.
Well,
I put my ugly face on it.
we are, but we're not. Hang
Hang on, wait.
She said I put my ugly face on.
That's not possible.
No, at all.
For our listeners, I guess, where can they find you, or do you have anything exciting that you're doing coming up where people can follow that little
plug
journey?
yourself.
We'll put all your stuff in the description, but if there's anything you'd like to.
I'm mostly on Instagram.
Okay.
So Sheridan Skye Fit.
Yep.
Plug myself.
Plug
Well,
yourself.
we do have coaching, but we're always full. So I can't really plug that because
sorry.
we're that great.
Yeah. So you got no hope.
I do have a pre and postnatal course. So one of my, I guess, specialty areas is pre and postnatal, for the reason that my mission is to get a barbell in the hands of every woman, no matter the life stage. And there is a lot of fear mongering and myths around that phase of a woman's life. And I will actually be launching a mentorship for coaches specifically next year, which stay tuned. I got to build that.
It's exciting.
Yay. On
Plug.
you. You're
Plugged.
doing God's work out there. Seriously though, I think it's like, yeah, very excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for allowing me to.
Yay.
Thanks for coming.
Bye.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.